good morning, everybody. I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking Cassie very much for giving me this platform to share my story. I really count it as an absolute privilege. My reading today is John 1:47 through to 50, but if I may, I'd like to read that a little bit later on. And so my story starts around about 2001, where my daughter got married previously to that, and I was sort of in a job that I wasn't happy with at all. So my whole world was really miserable. I was not a happy girl at all. And what was a sort of a social practice started turning into a habit, and then almost borderline alcoholism. From one glass of wine a night, I was going to 5 glasses of wine, and what was happening then is in the morning I was waking up hungover, so to get ready for my day and to give me energy, I was taking Red Bull and all those other sort of drinks that sort of help you, give you a kickstart for the day. So I was in the spiral of negativeness and misery, and I knew that I couldn't carry on like that. I just knew that I had to bring this part of my life to an end. But as we all know, bad habits die hard, and it went on and on for much longer than it should have. But this one night I came home, I did the dinner for my family, and I went to my bedroom as per usual. But this night was very different because I just felt that I needed to connect with God. I just felt that with an urgency within myself that I needed to connect with God. And so that night I actually lay prostrate on the floor of my bedroom, and I begged God to intervene in my life. I begged Him to help me to get control of the situation and help me to make changes in my life. And that night, I went to bed, and I actually remember I was laying in a fetal position in bed, as miserable as anything. And prior to that, about 3 days before that, I'd started a headache. I had a headache, and it had gone into my neck. But I didn't pay too much attention to that because I thought that it was, part of the whole drinking too much scenario where I was hungover. But that night, after begging God to take control of my life, I was woken up by strange people looking at me. And what had happened was that I'd woken up my husband during the night, and I was taking a fit. And so anyway, when they got me under control, everything under control, they left me, and it was decided that I'd go to the hospital the next morning. And so we duly did that, and we were walking. I was walking next to my hubby in the car park towards the entrance of the hospital, and I could feel something come over me. So I just touched his arm just to warn him, and of course then I took another fit. So I landed up in hospital where they did all the tests. They did MRI tests, and they did a cerebral angiogram, which I don't wish on anybody. I did CT scans, MRI, the whole lot of tests, and they discovered that I had a brain bleed, which was life-threatening to me. So then I found myself, to cut a very long story short, found myself in the doctor's rooms of a neurosurgeon who told me that I had to have a brain operation. So I asked him questions as normal people would, I guess, and I was not happy with any of the answers he gave me. What they did say to me was that the bleed was on the right-hand side of my brain, and if anything did go wrong in the operation, I would have problems with speech and movement. And so, I was just not happy with that. I was just not happy with those odds, and there was no ways in this lifetime that I was going to go through life with battling with speech and movement. That was not the kind of life that I wanted for myself. And so I made a decision there and then that I was not going to do that. I was not going to have this operation. and which is amazing, because remember, I didn't have I didn't really have a good relationship with God at that time, but I just felt within myself that it was the right thing. And let me just caution whoever is watching this, is that sometimes those kind of bold moves aren't always the right thing, but I felt for myself that that was the right thing for me to do. So I said no to the operation, and I was fully prepared to die at that time. I thought, you know what, if this is what if this is what the Lord wants for me, then, if it's my time, it's my time. And I had no fear. I remember the only thing that did happen was that I had regret. I regretted the fact that I wouldn't see my grandchildren. And as you can see in the background, there's a photographs there of the 4 precious grandchildren that I do have. But at that stage, that was one of the regrets I had. I had a regret that I wouldn't see grandchildren, and also my son hadn't graduated at that time, and that was another thing that I regretted. But there was no fear in me, which is quite astounding. And that feeling of assurance that I had that God was with me in this was something that nobody could ever take away from me. It was something I remember as if it happened yesterday. And so it's at this time now that I'd actually just like to bring in the scripture that I want to read for us. And it's in, as I said, it's John 1, and I'll start from verse 47, and it reads, "As they approached, Jesus said, 'Here comes an honest man, a true son of Israel.' 'How do you know about me?' Nathanael asked. And Jesus replied, 'I could see you under the fig tree before Philip found you.' And then Nathanael replied, 'Teacher, you are the Son of God, the King of Israel.'" Now for me, this scripture, I so relate to the scripture, because it was one of my quiet times during my recovery period that I read this. And it was like God saying to me, "I saw you, Shona. I saw you under the fig tree. I knew you. I know about you. I know that you exist. And I want to be part of your life." And the same as with Nathanael, that highlight is, I saw you under the fig tree, and I knew your name. I knew who you were. And Nathanael had he became one of Jesus' 12 disciples. He became very close to Jesus, from a person that didn't really, his words to Philip was, "Does anything good come out of Nazareth?" So, pretty much like myself, we knew about Jesus, but we didn't really have him as the kingpin in our lives. And Nathanael, Jesus recognized in Nathanael his potential on the day he saw him under the fig tree, and the future potential that Nathanael had in his life, becoming part of Jesus' inner circle. And so for me, it's exactly what happened to me. It was as if God was saying to me, "I saw you, and I know the potential that you have. And, walk with me, do life with me." And so that's what I did. I threw myself into things of God. I presented myself at our church one day, and I said to the pastor, "Please, I need to be busy. I need to work for the Lord. I need to make a difference in this community for Jesus." And I started doing odd jobs at the church as a volunteer. And then as time went by, they actually employed me. And I ended up, when I did retire, I retired from being the PA to the pastor. And so, and then also my husband ran the small groups part of the ministry in the church, and I threw myself into that, and I did all the administration side of things. I started a ladies group that's still actually running today, a little connect group for ladies. We did time trials. The list goes on. We ran kitchen for time trials. People came there to run and to walk. It was like an outreach for those that didn't know the Lord, so that we could touch in just serving them. And so one of through my whole journey, one of the things that I came to realize was my giftings. I realized that I was very strong in administration and in organization, and God used me in an amazing way using those gifts. Another gift that I've realized I have is encouragement. I find it very, very easy to encourage somebody. If I see somebody in the road or get to speak to somebody, I always try and find something that I can say to them. They look nice, or that I can compliment them on. And so, the journey that I've been on has been nothing more than amazing. But one thing I've got to say is that what took me to that place that night is prayer. I believe my husband, is an amazing believer. He could see where my life was going, and God bless him, he stuck with me, and I know that he prayed for me, and he prayed much for me, and I believe that is what got me to my knees that night. What got me prostrate before God that night. And during my recovery, I felt the prayers of my friends. I felt the prayers of my church friends, my family, my husband. It was like a cloak over me. I could feel that prayer going up for me that got me through the hardest times. So my encouragement to you is, if you do get a message or an SMS saying, please pray, become part of that group to bear that person up in prayer. God showed me once, I believe that it was from God, that a prayer is a deposit in heaven that he can do something about. And I think that is just amazing. And so if my story can do anything for you today, it's to encourage you to pray. Pray for people that need God in their lives. Pray for your community. Pray for your country. Pray for your friends, like my friends did when they noticed that I needed it the most. Because I believe that timing of me going before God like I did was by no means coincidental. It was through the prayer of others into my life. So God bless you, and thank you for listening to my story. Bye-bye.
Hello ladies, I'd like to believe that you're all safe and well, and trust God is keeping you all in one piece. This morning I want to share a hack that I found very interesting for the kitchen,